have Stephanie Kilroe, is another of our social entrepreneurs. She runs the Etafeni, what is it called? Etafeni Daycare Center. They won a previous award. Etafeni has been replicated, and she'll shortly tell you about that before she goes into the Fit for Life project, because we might want to group her with the other two social entrepreneur projects. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I just want to introduce Deborah Mency in the white shirt and Monica LeCay. Where's Monica there? They're handing out annual reports and brochures on the Fit for Life program. I'm not talking about the Etafeni Daycare Center this afternoon, but Rhoda said that I should tell you, as a previous award winner, we're replicating in Vrygrond. We've got a center community built. The model is that we keep whatever money we have in the community. So we use local people to build the center. They get skills. They can then go on to employment afterwards. And then you get community buy-in to the building, so you get minimal theft and vandalism. And we've done it in Nyanga. We're doing it in Vrygrond. We open the center in Vrygrond on the 24th of this month. And we're doing it in a rural village in Limpopo called Nwamitwa, where the traditional leader there, she's, I think, the only woman traditional leader in South Africa, Khosi Tiniko Nwamitwa. And we've got a project in Khayelitsha who've got land next door to the new hospital in the city centre, and they want us to help them do the same thing there. But we've told them to wait till Vrygrond is finished, because more than 2 centres at a time is a bit much. But this afternoon, oh, can we have the slides? This afternoon I want to talk about a program called Fit for Life, Fit for Work. It wasn't our invention, but after about the 4th year of work at Etafeni, and Etafeni is holistic care of AIDS-affected children and their caregivers, and we weren't losing any of our HIV-positive mothers, and we've never lost a child. And so we felt we were doing that okay, but what we weren't doing was addressing prevention, because the stats in Nyanga, as some of you will know, have been 28.8% prevalent for the last 4 or 5 years. So the infection rate doesn't drop. So we were asking ourselves what we could do, because it's clear to us now that information and education does not necessarily affect attitudes and behavior. And I'm not a Marxist, but I know that economics have a profound effect on people's attitudes and behavior. So Luvuyo, who's the center manager at Nyanga, Luvuyo and I went to a presentation of an Indian program, which was called Fit for Life, Fit for Job. And we thought this was brilliant because it was established in Chennai, Madras, and they had an 80% success rate of placement of young people after 6 weeks of all day, every day, very intense work on themselves, a bit like psychotherapy, and then work skills, and then placement in entry-level jobs. So we have got one chap who we immediately put into university because he had A's and B's. Everybody else we say, no, you get a job and you learn to budget and you save, and then you can pay for your own further education out of that. But what we need is young South Africans. We only work with young South Africans with a grade 12 in Nyanga, Vrygrond, Limpopo, and later Khayelitsha. So they're coming from communities where these kids already have something special in themselves to have swum upstream and got a grade R certificate. And as you probably know, grade R in Nyanga is not fantastic, but they got it. So those are the kids that we take into the program. This is the problem, and we decided that we were going to do the same as the Indian program. We would not accept anything less than an 80% placement rate for our kids in the program, and this is our 4th year, and we've done it every year till now. The aim of the program is, Rhoda, you're talking about life skills. our life skills, all our trainers have been through the Lifeline Personal Growth course. So we build a little bit on narrative therapy techniques. So the first week, they do a collage about their life story. And it's not to do with work, or it's just to do about myself. And it goes very quickly, very deep into each young person. And we only work with a group of 15 because then we get CETA accreditation for them. So although it's called life skills, it's more personal growth. And then after that, if we can go on, this is the Indian model, which I've spoken about. We had to do a whole cultural rethink of the material, because although the idea was so brilliant, what went in India wasn't for us. So we can go on. There's Deborah and Monica. They both do the training and the placement. So that's quite, we're going to have to sort that out, because it's quite a role, too much of a good thing for each person. If we could go on. We take school leavers. We have to take 60% of the young people who come in must be girls, because we're funded by the Ford Foundation, and that's one of their criteria. And those are the rest of the acceptance of criteria. We thought we would need a recruitment strategy, but we haven't had to bother about recruitment. We always have a waiting list, just goes by word of mouth. And this code of conduct, in the interview, we say to people that you have to sign this contract. You've got to be here every single day, on time, with your cell phone switched off, no smoking, no drinking, no drugs, no swearing, no abusive behavior, no getting pregnant, no getting anyone else pregnant. If you do any of those things, out, because there are lots of other kids waiting to come in. And Ford objected about the pregnancy thing. They said it was prescriptive. And we fought for that. Because in Younger, we call it a township MA. Yeah. These girls, they drop babies like you can't imagine. And we say this is fit for work, not fit for baby. I adore babies. I love babies. But this program is funded to do something else. It's fit for life, fit for work. We do yoga every morning. One of our Fit for Life graduates was trained in yoga. So the kids start with a sort of easy, slow, relaxing thing. And it has these 3 parts. The one is personal awareness. We talk about diet, exercise, because if you're a girl, you're going into an interview and you are absolutely grossly overweight, you disadvantage yourself colossally. So they must get fit, not just yoga, but run around the block and do that sort of thing. And they learn mechanisms, techniques. When they have an overwhelming feeling of anger, say, about their boss, how do they deal with that without making it shooting themselves in the foot? So they come back to Sis Debs or to Monica, and they say, oh God, and they process that. So they learn techniques of just standing back a little bit from, the developing fitness of work, we do a lot of work around what is a work ethic. And we don't want it to be an outside-in imposition. It's got to be something that comes from them. What do they want for themselves? What kind of person do they want most to be? And so that it's that whole thing of self-empowerment, self-acceptance. I'm really bad at these things, but I'm actually quite good at those things. So they get a realistic sense of themselves and their own shadow, their own weaknesses, and where they've got to ask for help. And the goals, long-term goals, I want to be a social analyst. So I said, well, what is a social analyst? What does that involve? Okay, maybe you can start by being a data capturer, and you say this about, so it's long-term dreams, because those are important, where they're headed in the long run, but what are the short-term things they've got to do? One little step at a time. This thing of culture, oh my gosh, well, we have this day in which they all wear, this is the bloke who went to university, by the way, to do construction management at UWC. And this young woman was beaten to death by her partner. One of the things in Younger that happened. But they have this day in which they look at what are the things in the culture that really work for them, that help them to be the person they most want to be, and what are the things in their culture that actually are not working for them or not working for other people. And then, what are the things in contemporary Western culture that they think are good, and what don't they? Because consumerism and materialism and all that kind of thing, they've got to develop a critique. They've got to be able to stand back and say, okay, I'm not just doing this to buy a Jag and whatever. I'm doing this for what is the deepest thing in myself. Maybe it is a Jag. I mean, we've had one young chap who was quite straight about that. I said, I could go for it, do it. Maybe you'll discover something. Once you've got the Jag, there'll be something else. So, Ford's funding is half from the Economic Empowerment Desk, half from the Reproductive Health Desk, because the aim of this program is not just to get kids in jobs and inserted into the economy, it's also to proof them against not just HIV, but anything. So we do sexuality. We don't do HIV/AIDS work with them, although that's part of it. But it's looking at the whole issue of sexuality. And Deborah does it with them, and she's brilliant. She said, we are sexual beings. Every single cell of our body is sexually primed and programmed. And then with the yoga and the exercise and so on, getting them to have a feeling that it's okay to be a sexual being, but you've got to work with it. There's got to be some kind of an internalized locus of control, is what we say to the kids. And these are just lots of different NGOs and organizations that we work with to do input. Okay.
And half of them were Impumelelo with cancer, the mosaic.
Oh yeah. And so those are some of the things that they have to cope with. Vuiswa, the young woman there, she is now a preschool teacher. She started off by being an entrepreneur, starting her own catering business, and decided it sucked. She came back, she said she wanted to be, so we sent her to Elru, and she's now a preschool teacher. The fitness for work. Now these things are very interesting, but I can't go into them now. We've just got to whiz through the... So they start off with computer skills. We've got a format for a CV from a commercial consultant, and they have to work themselves on computers to do it. We give people, if they haven't got outfits, we give them appropriate outfits. And here, this is Vuyo. You can see a lot of kids in the township. I was in Vrygrond yesterday, they knock their front teeth out. So we replace their teeth for them before they go for any interview. People laugh, we got 12,000 rand for a Dutch funder just to do dentistry. Because if they go into an interview, I'm telling you, they won't get the job, they've got no two front teeth. So we give them front teeth. They don't mind. Okay. Transforms the wheel. With every child, we do, the previous speaker at Crystal House was talking about the importance of English. We slot English lessons. These kids come to us with matric English, and I'm telling you, they could not hold their own in an interview. So we have masses of English. Everybody gets to do driving lessons to license, because that's a guarantee of a job, and very empowering for young black women, very empowering. And basic computer courses, because if you haven't got computer skills, forget it. And work skills, so we do various things, like the Department of Labour in Young will say, oh, we've got a panel beating learnership, or spray painting, or Department of Tourism's taken a whole lot of our kids. So whatever comes up, or whatever the kids want, call centres, big in the Cape. Chandlering, I don't know what the modern name for chandlering, but the dock stuff, also big for jobs. Where are we now? We've got 3 programs running, Limpopo, Vrygrond, Nyanga, all with the same success rate. And now Ford have said to us, which I think is the next slide, that we have got to now scale up. They want thousands, not hundreds. And this is Eka from the Ford Foundation, handing out certificates to young men. But what we've been very fortunate, the next slide, is Debs phoned me one day and she said, Steph, I've got somebody involved. Nikki, you know Nikki Shea from UWC? She's in the School of Public Health there, but she's come in to do monitoring and evaluation for us so that we can track our young people, not just their economic status, but also their reproductive health over a period of 2 years. So that's Nick here. And then next slide. This is Claudia Mumate. Oh my gosh, she's our secret weapon. She discovered us. She's German, and she came out to a holiday to South Africa, loved it, got transferred. She's paid by DTZ, the German Technical Corporation, but she works in the Department of Labor. Yes. And she is more manic than I am, and with very high standards. And so she is taking us to scale with Nikki and Edna Ruth, who some of you might know from UWC, who's like the life skills guru. And they're the team. And we hope with Paul, who gave the presentation of the small projects, that he might be somebody who will help us go nationally in a public-private partnership with the Department of Labor. Although there's very little left of the Department of Labor now. Somebody needs to do something about that. The Department of Education has just like taken the whole budget. And I mean, I approve of university education. It helps you to think. But these kids need to do something between where they are now, unemployed in the townships, and getting into tertiary education. So that is the program.
My question is how do you know 80% are getting jobs, and what kind of jobs are they getting?
They're entry-level jobs in the main. Well, our contract with Fall says we will get 80% of our graduates into paid employment or bona fide tertiary institutions with full cost bursaries or into a business of their own. And we have seed money to do that. Very few entrepreneurs in Yaka and Fragrant. So we've got one success story of entrepreneurs there. And I have this running battle with Deborah because she'd like to see everybody with a degree. I'm saying, hold your horses, you know, that can come later, but we've got to get people into jobs. So the jobs are things like at the airport, once they've got a driving license, they drive those funny cars around, or admin in a clerical job, or data capturers in the Department of Social Development, or well, an educator is good. There's one young woman who wants to start her own hairdresser in a container. But they're not like lawyers and doctors. They're what are called strictly entry-level jobs. But we want to see that they stay in those jobs long enough to make money. Part of the course, they open a bank account, we bring the bank into the center. Then they have to budget, draw up a personal budget. So much for the household that they're living in, and we track that. What are they contributing to their household? And then what have they got to spend on their own selves, and what are they saving? And part of those savings are for future education. But we track them for 2 years, Graham, until they...
Cheryl?
Maybe just to follow on, I'm also fascinated because I do quite a lot of work with young people at risk. And the one thing that we've learned is that young people with high self-esteem and hope for the future are less likely to engage in risky behavior.
Exactly.
Early and or risky sex, substance abuse, violence, either as a perpetrator or as a victim.
Yeah.
And so I find it quite fascinating. I would like to know, do you track if these young people stay in those jobs and how long they stay for? Has the project been going for long enough to do that?
Yeah, we have, this is Nikki Shea's thing, we have a data sheet which keeps going the whole time because we take a new group of 15 kids every 6 weeks. So then we slot in all the information, and what we're recording is who is their employer, what position do they have with the employer, the date they started. Then every 6 months we check with them and we check with the employer. Are they still in that job? Do they still have the same position? What are they earning? How much do they contribute to the household that they're living in? So we've only been going, this is our 4th year, so we haven't had anybody who's worked for over 4 years yet. But, you know, and the thing is, I do say to them,
And HIV, rates of infection, is there any way you can
Yes.
handle on that?
Yeah. The same thing is every 6 months to check out. Our kids all test. We have voluntary counselling and testing on site. In Vrygrond, another organisation comes in, the whole class tested. They test, they counsel to stay negative, if they're negative. If they're positive already, they counsel to look after their health. Debs does a lot of work around nutrition, exercise, staying cool and stuff like that.
Michelle?
But I was able to go visit your Vrygrond site last week, and it was, I think they were at the end of their 6-week session. And as you said, they were so confident, so full of, I mean, I would have hired any of them. They really, obviously, the 6 weeks really made a difference. They were
we do a lot of work around body language, and you can see the difference. Like now, we've got the first week in Nyanga and in Vrygrond, and they're like kids off the street in Nyanga and Vrygrond. At the end of it, as Inga says, you would honestly give any of them a job.
But I'm very curious. I'm curious about what differences you see because you have this requirement of 60% girls or females. What difference you see, and sort of through the program, the girls versus the boys, if there's advantages of having them together or separate, and then what kind of jobs the girls versus boys get upon leaving, if there is a difference. I'm just very interested in that aspect of it.
Did, do you think that the young women grow more during the 6 weeks than the young men, or do you think both?
I think they both grow because we work in groups and we give them a topic to discuss. How are you coping with HIV? How are you coping with sexuality? They bring back the feedback, and of course they say what they do at home. And so when they come at the end of the 6 weeks, one example is one woman was with the income generation. She came onto the course because she used to do eating and stuff. You can see a person's posture, straightening out, and you see what difference she does in her job. And so it's that valuable. She went through the HIV/AIDS counseling course. She's now a counselor in a clinic. She's no longer doing this.
So she moved from being a beneficiary to being just an ordinary person working.
And she has done electrical engineering as well, so she's an artisan.
A lot of our kids go on to be electricians. The construction industry is strong here. Call centre industry, we've got a lot of kids in call centres. So we really are opportunistic. We look for what jobs are available, and then we like.
Marianne?
I'm just curious because it's an interesting question that we're dealing with in this country at the moment. And you talked about sort of people's cultural perspectives of themselves. And our president's just been placed under enormous pressure by the English around cultural perceptions and how one is. It's a very controversial area. I'm very curious about how you maintain a healthy balance between what might be considered a white, Western ideological perspective of how you should be in the workplace, including weight. Because my mother's culture, which is Portuguese, overweight big women are healthy. Do you know what I mean? So it's a matter of opinion. I'm just interested, curious how that works.
What Deborah's been doing with the young people in Nyanga is different in Vrygrond and different in Limpopo because the cultures are so different. But in Nyanga, what the kids do, they use a lot of role play and mime and drama. And we had a young woman from Manchester University doing her doctorate on how body work, drama, movement affects people's ability to speak honestly about sexuality. It's a fascinating work, but she set down a really good way of working around that. And those kids on their cultural day, or they rehearse beforehand, but they usually put on a sort of little drama about like Amakoti being brought into the family, and she's very demure, and there was a girl that this chap had a relationship, not the Makoti, and how this affects both girls. And the young people are very critical of what is happening in their culture. And that's interesting for me to see. But culture goes very deep. We've just had a young bloke who, do you know what Okutwasa is? He was called to be an Ikrecha. And we processed that with him. How he should respond and what are the pressures inside him. And he has been for the training. He's still in the training. But he'll come back and we will help him find work. So there are, you can't ignore the pressures inside people, but you've just got to give, all I hope for is if we give people just a little bit of distance between themselves and their own culture, between themselves and contemporary culture, where they can just begin to maneuver a little bit.
Andre?
How useful has the CETA structures been to your project and the Department of Labour?
The Department of Labour in Young has been cool, so I have to give them that. They've been cooperative. The CETAs, we first of all, it was enormously difficult uploading all the stuff onto the site, and now we're just waiting for a visit, Monica. The chap is coming to visit, a site visit to approve us. So we're in the last stages of getting CETA.
But
It's been a mission.
They haven't helped you get placements and stuff like that?
No.
Impumelelo and Johnny, and then we have to stop here.
I just want to know how do you choose the people that come to do these things, that attend the whole thing? And then the other thing is, how did you come to choose Cape Town and Limpopo, and why do you limit it to those?
Okay, we started in Younger because we were in Younger, and it came. Fragrant Community Development Trust came to us, asked us to do a similar centre and similar programs there, and the Hosi from Limpopo came to us. We haven't ever gone out, but now that we're going to go to scale, it will be different, because obviously if we have a partner, the Department of Labour as a partner, who now I think the only thing they'll be left with is career guidance, is this kind of area. Then obviously if it's going to be a national rollout, it will be everywhere. So we won't be picking and choosing. That's the one answer. How do we select candidates? Okay. Now I know this is going to shock a lot of people, but we've decided to go for winners up front. In 5-10 years, when we've got no unemployed grade 12s in the country, we will start working with grade 11s. Now we work with grade 12s. They must have no criminal record. And they must look, if they've got a drug problem, or if they're already pregnant, or if they've got a drinking problem, we refer them to other organizations to get over their problem. Somebody said to me, oh my God, it's like the British officer corps. It is a bit, because we want to take kids who've already shown that they've got something, and we want to say, okay guys, get off the streets, get into the economy, let's do something here. Now, I have this war with Debs because she's got a soft heart. She says, Steph, there's this guy, he's gorgeous, but he's hooked. I said, forget it, Deborah, forget it, refer. So it sounds very, but that's my role. It's only hard-hearted.
I just want to get a sense of the scale of this thing. There's a figure of 240 people. Is that over
in
4
each
years?
centre, no. Every 2 years, we do 120 young people in each centre every year. So we've got 3 centres at the moment, so 360. That's why Ford's saying it's not enough. It's got to reach them all. 240 kids, Ford fund you in a 2-year funding tranche, so that's the agreement with them, that in each centre we will train 240 people every 2 years.
So you're placing 300 people a year, that's plus
300, yeah, 300 people, yeah.
Good. Thank you, Stephanie.
I believe in this project because I think our young people are allowed to fall through the cracks, and we have a huge youth unemployment problem, youth neglect, in fact, by this country. And so I really think that this project, as with Crystal House, they're doing amazing things. The problem is when you do well, funders inevitably tells you to upscale, when in fact government should complement what's being done. We can't ask projects that do well to upscale beyond their capacity when they're not getting. But what they do is to capture and create leaders.